Hola mi gente, ¿cómo va? I had taken process video of painting this poster for the No King's Day protest, and I realized I never actually did voiceover for it. So I wanted to get into that and just tell you guys a little bit about how it went and also what I'm doing here. So this is just cardboard. I am painting on cardboard using Posca pens and Sharpies. I did use Sharpie for the outlines, and then I'm using the Posca pen acrylic paint markers for the colors. For the most part, I'm using Posca pen acrylic paint colors. There's going to be this big fat yellow marker that comes in for the face, obviously. There it is. And I look to see what brand it is, and for the life of me, I cannot find it on the actual paint pen. But with the brown of the cardboard plus the yellow of the paint pen, I think it came out to be basically the appropriate shade of orange for his face, and it's pretty close anyway. And then something that I noticed while making this poster is that cardboard drinks up paint. You'll see on a couple of areas here, I'm just having to do multiple passes to get the color to not just sink in. You can actually see it as I do the outlines, and definitely watch anywhere you see how it kind of just sinks into the cardboard when it's just straight on the brown. So I had to do multiple passes on several of these colors to get them to really pop out the way that I wanted to. So that's something to keep in mind if you're ever making a poster for yourself or for a protest that you want to go to, or for yourself, whatever the case may be. You just want to make a poster and you're using cardboard. If you're using paint markers, you're gonna have to do multiple pass-throughs, unless of course you wanted to go the extra miles and put down. You see how it just sinks in? My God, I'm watching it and I feel a little frustrated watching it again, just kind of disappear. It's almost like water sinking into soil, like a good soil, just easily absorbed. Anyway, it was a little frustrating, but at the same time, I settled in with Hamilton. I was listening to Hamilton in the background and singing along while I was coloring this in. So what I was going to say is, I suppose you could, if you wanted to go the extra miles, use like an acrylic ground. I can't remember exactly what it's called. It would be called like some type of ground for canvas paint, or excuse me, for canvas, so that it'll hold paint, so that the paint doesn't just sink in, doesn't just get absorbed into the canvas. And in this particular instance, the canvas in question is cardboard. Another thing that I noticed with the acrylic paint here, and that you might see, is that it does not spread easily on cardboard. So just straight cardboard, this was a real pain in the butt, and to get it to layer on the way that I wanted it to. The paint was drying very, very quickly. So I can't say that I would necessarily recommend paint, like if you were doing this for art. It's kind of a pain in the butt, just saying. It's a little bit frustrating, so if you're going to be doing something like this, just be aware it can be frustrating. Give yourself extra time to get in there, or paint the ground ahead of time, and because this was, or try a different medium. I had Posca pens, I had acrylics on hand, so that's what I used, and I did the best that I could with them because I was also on a time crunch. I needed this in time for the protest. The protest was going to be, I think I finished coloring this in the day before the protest. And in addition to painting this one in, because I focused on finishing mine first, I also had a second one that I wanted to do. And it was a second poster because I was going to be going to the protest with my husband, and I knew that he wasn't going to be making his own poster, and so I made one for him, and I needed to make sure that I had enough time after making this one to make the second one. So that is why I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make do with what I got, and I'm gonna do the best that I can. It's gonna be finished regardless, and we're just gonna go. So that's what I did. Obviously the art is something that I do a lot. I do a lot of these, and let's be real, I'll be honest, it's basically the same caricature. I can basically just caricature Trump at this point, and it's kind of low-hanging fruit for me at this point. Like I can just kind of do it. And I remember one of the stories that I wanted to tell here is that I remember the first time that I caricatured this guy was back in like 2017, I think. And at the time, so that was, during the first Trump term, and at the time, I could not pay attention to the news. It really was just a lot, and I couldn't handle it at the time. And I had just to hear all the horrible things that he was doing. I mean, in 2015, before he actually got elected, like 2014 to 2015, I was paying attention to the news, and I was doing my best to read articles, and I wasn't obsessing over anything. I was just keeping up with things, an hour tops of reading the news a day. I would read a couple of articles, and I would make sure that I had them from a few different sources, because you don't want to get everything from the one source, or you might be getting a pretty biased, even if they're trying not to be biased, which I don't think very many newspapers are trying to not be biased at this point. Even if they were trying not to be biased, you're gonna get some personal biases. So I made sure to be looking into multiple different sources. And so I saw a lot of this bad stuff coming basically in 2015, where, for example, I thought it was enough when he was saying things like all Mexicans are rapists and murderers, which is not true. Or he was referring to immigrants in general. Oh, they're all rapists and murderers. And yeah, so I was just horrified when he actually won back in 2016. And then anyway, so in 2017, a professor of mine, she is doing, was directing a play, and she needed a protest poster, and she wanted it to be Trump with sort of like a pig nose. And I couldn't even look at him. I couldn't even look at his face without gagging. But she described what she wanted, and I was like, oh, do you mean something like this? And I pulled up his picture and just did a quick sketch while gagging the whole time. I was like, I can't, it felt like I was doing a disservice to the pig to be incorporating him with a pig. But yeah, that was the first time that I caricatured Trump, was for this protest poster in 2017 that was going to be getting used in a play. And I wish I had more sayings and more things that I could do as protest posters, but the thing is, this was an easy one, and I just needed to finish one, so Orange Man Bad, and here it was. I did borrow the phrase and tweaked it a little bit from somebody else. I went to an Indivisible sign making party, and that was actually pretty fun. And because I got to do art, so I was really happy about that. But yeah, here was my first protest poster, Fucking Bully.